We're here today visiting with a number of local officials, including our Newtown First Selectman, Pat Lodra, Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Joseph Arardi, Legislative Council Chair, Mary Ann Jacob, Board of Education Chairman, Keith Alexander, and Board of Finance Chairman, John Kortz. My name is John Boquette from the Newtown Bee, and we're here to talk a little bit about the upcoming 2015 budget referendum. So we're going to ask a number of questions to our entire panel here today. And let's start, John Kortz, with you. Let's talk a little bit about why you think Newtown voters should support the 2015-16 budget proposal.
I think probably one of the best words that I could use to describe this upcoming budget referendum and what's presented to the public is comprehensive. There's an awful lot of different things that address an awful lot of different issues, from roads to new programs and things of that nature, all encompassing from the Board of Selectmen side, the Board of Education side. But I would use the word as comprehensive in being able to provide for a lot of the different needs in the community.
Excellent. How about you, Mary Ann Jacob? Why should voters support the 2015-16 budget proposal?
I think it's a fair budget. We worked hard to make sure that reductions were made in areas that we could with commodities. We made sure to fund things that are important to the taxpayers, and we're very respectful of the fact that people want to have their taxes very closely watched and possibly reduced.
Excellent. How about you, Dr. Arardi? Your first Newtown budget situation?
Actually, my second. I took ownership for the last budget.
That's right.
I was here, and I say that jokingly. The intent or the design of the school board budget was to do a couple of things. One is to maintain the core of teaching and learning. Two is offer opportunity to enhance what we're presently doing. And three, never lose sight of children. With all of that being said, it was done in a respectful manner to this community with a bottom line that I think offers all of those opportunities and an opportunity for this community to embrace going forward with this year's budget.
Excellent. First Selectman Pat Lodra, thanks for coming out. Tell us a little bit about why you think folks should support this budget.
From the very outset, when the Board of Selectmen started discussing its budget back in October, we made it very clear in all of our public discussions that our goal was to present to the community a budget that has no tax increase and a decrease in the mill rate, knowing that to achieve that we're going to need to work very closely with our Board of Education partners and all of our department heads, at the same time increasing substantially the allotment for road repair and reconstruction, which is a critical element, a quality of life issue for our community. So we worked very hard, the Board of Selectmen did, our department heads, the Legislative Council, Board of Finance, Board of Education. I think everyone contributed to that overarching goal so that we have achieved for the community a budget that has met the Board of Selectmen initial objectives of no tax increase and a slight decrease in the mill rate, while maintaining critical services and a small bit of growth in the road fund and supporting schools at the level that testifies to a maintenance budget as well as some small growth.
Excellent. Thank you. Keith Alexander, Chairman of the Board of Education. Tell us a little bit about what you think about the upcoming budget.
I think the best word that I would use for this and have been using is respectful. It starts off with Dr. Arardi bringing a respectful budget recommendation to the Board of Education that considered both the declining enrollment and new district needs and changes to district grants. And it moved on to the respectful conversations that we had with the Board of Finance, in-depth questions from them, as well as respectful conversations with the Legislative Council. Everybody's questions got answered. We tried to make sure it was all out in the public as soon as possible. The questions were open, the answers were open. So I think because of that respectful process, we ended up with a budget that everybody in town should be able to respect and vote for.
Very good. We're going to stick with you, Keith, for just the next question. Let's talk a little bit more about the overall process and the level of cooperation that you spoke to in your introductory remarks.
Yeah, that came from everything from our regular discussions at the Board of Ed level when we first found items and to discuss, and then it moved on through the Board of Finance asking quite a number of questions. They got them to us as quickly as they could. They gave us time to review and get answers back to them. Then we brought those answers out in public sessions with the Board of Finance and then posted them online as well. the same process continued on. So after they had their questions answered, everybody in the Legislative Council was able to see those questions and answers as well. Then the Legislative Council's Education Subcommittee worked on it in the same fashion. So it's been collaborative the entire time. Every time there was something that they thought could be reduced, we discussed that to make sure that that made sense to us as well. It was very much back and forth, very good process.
First Selectman Lodra, how about you? You've been through a number of these processes and this one seemed quite amicable.
Yes, it was amicable. I've witnessed in the past couple of years a growth in the capacity of our decision makers at all of our board and commission levels to collaborate and cooperate and be good thinkers, good listeners, understanding that we come to the process from different perspectives, different advocacies, and that's our job, is to advocate to the constituents we serve. And I found a good audience for those conversations at the Board of Finance level and the Legislative Council level. Certainly those bodies do great due diligence and find savings and reductions where they're necessary and appropriate, but they're very willing to hear the conversation and to allow themselves to think about the things that we're trying to advocate on the town side and the Board of Education side.
Thank you. Dr. Rardy, how about you? You've been involved in a number of communities, so let's talk a little bit about the collaboration here in Newtown this year.
I want to start by thanking the community and town leaders to my left and to my right, because every town does budget just a bit different. And in all cases, I was offered, I think, real sound advice. And that was to stay true to the mission, be respectful to the process, and if the answers aren't available, find the answers and get them to the folks who are asking the questions. So as I looked in the rearview mirror over the last 2 or 3 months, what I believe took place was a learning experience on my part, was good guidance from the school board and from the elected officials. And I think that the most important piece that I take away is that in reference to Keith's comment, it felt like a partnership moving forward, real good work taking place at all levels. My public conversation was always around trust is earned, and it takes time to reach that pinnacle of believability. So first time through, I was offered the opportunity to share information. I was offered the opportunity to volley back information. I think most importantly, I was offered the opportunity to work with folks who never ever lost sight of the town of Newtown.
Excellent. Mary Ann, you oversaw the final process of the budget cycle before the voters take it up. So speaking of looking in the rearview mirror, you had the opportunity to see a lot of the interaction play out both before the budget came to and once it arrived at the council level. Let's talk a little bit about your thoughts on that matter.
I think Pat's point about every year we refine it a little bit more is really well taken. The Board of Education provided us with the most comprehensive budget from the get-go that I've ever seen, which really allowed the level of questioning to be much higher, so we didn't get kind of caught in the weeds right from the get-go. Keith and Dr. Rardy's practice of answering the questions in writing and forwarding them to whatever board was asking for them allowed us to all share them up early. So we did something a little different at the council level this year. As the Board of Finance was receiving their answers, we were sharing them with the council members. The committees in the council were already beginning to formulate their own questions, and in some cases we actually forwarded them to the Board of Finance early on. The process is so condensed that with that collaboration we were able to give the Board of Education and the Board of Selectmen time to answer the questions. Everybody was able to share them, and it allowed the whole process when it got to us to move a little more smoothly. So I think all of those things played into a lot more, another step in the right direction in terms of cooperation and ease of process.
How about you, John Kortz? What did you think about this year's process and the collaboration amongst all the officials?
There's been a real good thing happening, I think, in the last couple of years, and I think the term cooperation is probably undersells it. But one of the things that I've noticed and have done a couple budgets myself is that you saw the public well served this year in a classic example of all the different roles that all the different boards and commissions, superintendent, first selectman, that they play. And you also saw a process unfold where questions were not just asked and answers, but dialogue was followed up on a lot of these difficult topics. The town of Newtown faces a whole host of challenges. You don't have to spend much time in town to understand that, whether it's roads, whether it's taxes, I mean, you name it, there's a whole host of challenges. It's a lot easier to slay all the different dragons if you have everybody kind of rowing in the same direction, and I've been able to feel that way the last couple of years. And most importantly is that when you have a question and you provide an answer, that there's a dialogue and a follow-up, and it only provides for a deeper understanding that people can then in turn support. So the public should understand that this process in the last couple of years has been, the public has been well served, and I'm happy to say that.
We're here today with Board of Finance Chairman John Kortz, Legislative Council Chair Mary Ann Jacob, School Superintendent Dr. Joseph Verardi, First Selectman Pat Lodra, and Board of Education Chairman Keith Alexander. We'll be back in the second segment of our Q&A with these town officials ahead of the 2015-16 budget referendum.